Gentlemen, and none of the above. One of my first Megaminx mods, in fact, pretty much the first Megaminx mod that I ever made a build video on was for a Halfminx, which all it was just a 2-gen solve, and I bandaged up all of the pieces around it, and I just kind of made like sort of a casing to hold 2 layers that would turn independently. And that is what we are going to build today. We're going to relive an old build that I haven't done in over a decade. And if you want to try and replicate this project, I really do recommend it because it's probably one of the simplest Megaminx mods you'll ever do. And it's a fantastic one to get started because it'll get you familiar with the mechanism of whatever Megaminx you use. Also, I'd like to thank Patreon for making that completely unnecessary cube gag possible. I needed a reason to use the flame feature. Oh, cool. It's got more. So normally when I start these projects, I take all the center caps out and you ready for it? Tighten up the puzzle so that it doesn't turn while I'm cutting it on the bandsaw. We are not going to do that. We are going to mark out all of the areas that we are going to glue together around 2 faces. And now what I'm going to do is half turn one of the layers and I'm just going to start gluing all of those pieces together. I got out a sticky note and I put some super glue on it, and then I used a blade to apply that in between all of the pieces. You never want to drip super glue directly into an assembled puzzle. You can very easily put too much in, and believe me, that is a cleanup process that you are better off avoiding. Alright, now that everything is glued together properly, I'm going to take all of these faces off, and then I'm going to go through and re-glue together all the pieces that we just glued from the outside on the inside. After I did this, I also removed the 2 layers that I was going to be preserving. I forgot to mention that before, but you got to take those out too. I had a chance to apply super glue directly to the inside of the puzzle. This is just some added security that I've glued everything down properly. And so now here we have in all of its glory the glued up part of this build. So what I'm going to do is take it over to my bandsaw, tilt the table to, I actually have no idea how many degrees, but whatever seems to line up with these pieces here, because this is the plane that we're going to be cutting down on. Cool. Not much of a cut, but I'll take it. After making the cut, I decided that it wasn't really necessary to use the bandsaw at all, and I could pretty much achieve the same result on the belt sander. So I sanded down to as far as I needed to, and then it was time to open a package. And once again, I'd like to thank Patreon for making it possible for me to get all of the epoxy sculpts for these projects. Supporting my channel really helps me make these videos. Remember, this channel is entirely self and fan funded, and I do this full time. You get your name at the end of the videos and on screen as well. Okay, so here's how this is gonna work. I wanna fill all of these holes here, that's a given, but what I also wanna do is fill all of these gaps in here and around here and even these little holes in here. I just wanna get this piece completely filled so that I can sand it down and just end up with 3 flat faces. I also have to make sure that I don't push the epoxy sculpt through. If you see an area like here, for example, if I push too much epoxy sculpt through, then it ends up coming through on the underside there, and that'll affect the movement of all the pieces that are supposed to go in here. I mixed up some epoxy sculpt and I stuffed it into all the large areas first. After I did that, I got a file out and I roughed up all of the gaps between each of the pieces before filling them as well. You're better off spending the time to make sure that everything's going to stick right than try and repair it later. So now that everything has been filled, I gotta say it doesn't look fantastic, but once we sand everything down, it's gonna look great. And you can also see the area in here that I just used this triangular file to push down all the epoxy sculpt. That way it wouldn't get in the way of the mechanism. It saves me the hassle of trying to carve it out later. I'm gonna take this over to my belt sander and start sanding down this bottom face, and then I'll get these areas on the sides here as well. I sanded everything down, paying very close attention to exactly how deep I was sanding. Remember, it's really not that hard to screw up this whole piece. If I sand too far, there's a lot of things that I risk doing. One of them being breaking through on all the areas that I filled, but more importantly, it might mean exposing the screws on the centerpieces that are very close to that finished face. it looks pretty good. There are a couple areas that I'm just gonna have to pick out and repair, but now that that's done, I'm gonna focus on the inside and also these areas around here. I'm gonna take a nail file and just knock off all of these high spots and then sand everything down so it's all nice and smooth. After that was done, I used a rounded blade to pick out all of the areas that would need to be repaired. These don't look very prominent at first, but if you see a small hole, you're better off carving it out into a large hole to make it easier to fill. After I did that, I waited for everything to harden, and then I sanded it once more, and then finished it off with some Scotch-Brite. This just rounds over all the sharp edges and makes everything smooth. Okay, this camera angle sucks. And then I put the final layers back in before giving it some stickers. And here it is, the puzzle is finally done. Now, like I said before, this is a fantastically simple project. It's probably one of the reasons why I did this over a decade ago, and it still looks just as cool. I really like the stickers that I gave this puzzle. The last one just had stickers very similar to a regular Megaminx color scheme, and I'm glad that I tried something different this time round. As you can see, only 2 faces move, and because I took the time to make sure that everything was smooth on the inside, they turned fantastically. Unfortunately, I don't know how to solve this puzzle. I need more than 3 faces at least to figure out how to do all of the algorithms I need in order to cycle the pieces. For now, I just prefer to build these things. If you do end up making one of these, make sure to let me know and tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. But anyways, I hope you guys like this puzzle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Make fire already. Come on, the cavemen did this. Ladies! Fuck. Damn it.